Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a new stream. Today, we do have a special episode because we're going to look live at most likely the most important FOMC meeting this year. The first rate cut of hopefully many more to come. Welcome. Strap in, guys, because what we're going to do in this stream is honestly going to be multitasking. On the one hand, we do have the upcoming, the stream itself, starting in about 45 minutes. That's going to happen live on stream. I think we're also going to take a look at many different charts today because, of course, we'll take a look at the CRO chart here. I do expect some more volatility to happen today. We've seen already a bit of a pump in the last few minutes. Many people are prepared for a potential dump, but also for potential pump. But I have this personal feeling, ladies and gentlemen. So if you take a look at these numbers here, you can see that the chance for a rate cut is really small. Really small. We're talking about, rate cut. We're going to get the rate cut, right? It's going to happen. 93%. We're going to get a rate cut. That's, I think, almost a certainty at this point. The question, though, to some is, will we get like a 50 basis point cut? And that would be, I think, somewhat scary for the market. So, guys, I'm not hoping for this to happen. What I'm personally hoping for is that this will be true. So 25 basis points, a simple, quick cut, nothing too dramatic because markets do like the predictability. If something unexpected occurs, people hate that. Market makers hate that. They want the predictable outcome. But what we want then after that, we'll get the speech, right? We get first in about 10 minutes, we'll get the numbers, I guess the 25 basis points. And then after that, I expect a lot of movements, maybe to the downside, maybe to the upside. And after that, we do get the speech. And the speech will be, I think, the most important today to see, hey, what's the future going to be like? Is it going to be bullish? Is it going to be bearish? That's, I think, the big question, guys. Is it going to be bullish or bearish based on that single speech there? But what I want to say here, many people are expecting this, right? We expect a 25 basis point rate cut so far today on the 17th of September. So many people say this is priced in. This is all priced in, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, we shouldn't be bullish. No. No, it should be bearish, guys. Expect a breakdown because, well, it's a sell the news event. My counter argument to this is that many people are already expecting a sell the news event. So this is going to be mind game, but if you are expecting it to be a sell the news event, shouldn't it be a buy the news event instead? These are the mind games, guys. So basically, no one knows. The only certain outcome that we have now is that we don't know what the outcome is going to be. A lot of volatility, though. That's what I do expect, guys. So one thing, please, strap in, hit the like button, and also if you're new here, I see many new faces. Welcome, guys. Don't forget to hit that little subscribe button as well. I'm here to talk about macro. I'm here to talk about CRO. I'm here to talk about Bitcoin. As you can see in the thumbnail also, what I'm mainly waiting for is what's going to happen with Bitcoin dominance. Exactly, John. Smash the like button. Rebenti, strap in, sir. So the Bitcoin dominance, I think one of the most important factors regarding will we see an absolute altcoin season will be going to be the rate cut, which we expect it to be like 25 basis points, but especially the speech afterwards. You can see that so far for the month of September. The month of September, we didn't really do anything. We've been to the downside, we've been to the upside so far. In the month of September, we do see a small, very tiny green candle, but this can, guys, flip within like a few seconds. In 8 minutes, we do get the actual number. And then we're waiting for the speech. So strap in for that, guys. Welcome. The only thing we do know is that we don't know anything. Exactly, sir. Exactly. So I'm ready. I want to give you guys one warning, though. So if you have an open trade, if you are trading with leverage, this can become quite brutal. So I personally am not trading anything right now. I think it's very dangerous. We don't know what's going to happen. I expect volatility, though, or it might be a nothing burger. What about that? I'm out. Welcome. Strap in. Lions as well, welcome. What do you guys expect? We have about 7 minutes more. So let me quickly ask the question in the chat here. What do you guys expect? I do know we have a lot of macroeconomic experts here in the chat, as always. So let me know, guys. What do you expect? I'm going to open a poll in a second. Rate card 0, so no change. 25 basis points or 50 basis points. Guys, poll's open now. Let me know in the poll, please. What do you expect? Do you expect no change, 25 basis points or 50 basis points? So the experts say 25. But there are some rumors, some banks do expect a bigger rate cut. I'm not hoping for it to happen because it would spook the market. Some would say that like it's necessary to bring the economy back up and running again. So who knows? Who knows? This, guys, will be the most important rate cut, I think, though, for... Well, not the rate cut necessarily, but the speech. Like, what's the expectation? We have had not Jerome Powell in the Jackson Hole talking about the importance, really, of the job market, and therefore I do believe they will slowly start to accept that we need to be less restrictive regarding rate cuts. Nature's King, welcome. I saw a Twitter post saying CRO can't be approved since it needs to be listed on the futures for 6 months. So I've seen this as well. I've seen this posted by Albert. It has to be wrong. It has to be wrong, Nature's King. So we're talking about two different things here. On the one hand, we do have the listing procedure. And what they want to do, though, is they want to be sure that if you want to create an ETF or an ETP, that it's going to be a suitable product. And one of the requirements there is that there's enough liquidity, there's enough trading happening. And what people are saying is that if we are trading already for 6 months on the Coinbase futures, we can prove that it's a reliable product with sufficient liquidity. However, that's one way to prove it's a reliable product with enough liquidity. Of course, guys, it's not going to be like, hey, you don't have a listing on Coinbase and therefore we cannot ever approve this ETF. It's not how it works. Let's say we have Coinbase being like Binance. They will be very against listing CRO. In that case, well, no ETF ever? No. But it's for the fast track, really. It's for the fast track of the ETFs. So it might be, guys, that the CRO ETF is not getting any fast track here. Not getting any fast track, but we don't know. I think it might be approved very quickly. One of the things I also think, guys, we should be watching is Ethereum. Ethereum is the kingmaker on altcoins. Don't know why I've drawn this here. Ethereum, and also what I think we should be watching is the total free. So let me bring up the total free as well. Total free. And we've been talking about this, but the setup with the total free, so every altcoin except for Ethereum, it is getting ready for the breakout here. It's getting ready for the breakout, and I need to bring a second line here. I think if you do it like this, you can see really we are at the moment, guys, getting ready for that breakout here. If today is going to be very dovish, we might see that first glance really of a full-on breakout for altcoins. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got 3 more minutes. Welcome, strap in. Matt Breezy, welcome. Joseph as well. Tim Long, welcome. I don't think it would really spook the markets, a 50 basis point cut. 275 though. 275 basis point rate increases in the last 80 months. That's true. Sometimes we do some radical changes. We do get some radical changes. Let me check, guys. What does the chat say so far? So we got 70% saying 25 basis points. We got 50 basis points for about a quarter of all the viewers. Guys, check it out. Link is in the not the link. The poll is in the chat. Let us know, please, what you think regarding this rate cut. And now I need to bring up the actual data, guys, because the data is going to be released very quickly. Important. I typically like to use this website. It's called the Cryptocraft, and it shows basically all the important data for crypto. So today, we're still waiting for this. One more minute, then we get the actual data. Expectation, the forecast is 4.25%, so the 25 basis point cut. Well, let's see. Javello, welcome. Maybe Christmas comes early. And Jerome will step down. Again, guys, I don't think that Jerome Powell is really the evil. He tries to be careful. He tries to be careful because the US economy is not to be played with. It's not like North Korea. Let's see. We've got 1 more minute, guys. Strap in. This is the time. And I think we also will get the economic projections and some more statements. And then afterwards, we will get the actual press conference. It's going to be very exciting, guys. And again, I warn you, I do warn you, be careful. If you have a trade open, think about closing it. Things are in profit now. It could be dumping. It could be a sell the news event. It could also be the exact opposite. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Can we do it like this? Can we do both stream? No? Okay, let's just keep watching here. We'll go back, guys, to the actual charts in a second. But let's go back to the FOMC. We've got 15 seconds here. We've got 15 seconds. Get ready. Mr. Your wife, my kids. The most important thing is really the roadmap. Is it going to be dovish or is it going to be bullish? Not dovish, hawkish, I should say. It is pending now. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading. Exactly, okay. So far, guys, as expected, 25 basis point cut. Nothing special. Let's go directly to the Bitcoin chart here. What is Bitcoin doing at this exact minute? Let's go to a different one. I want to open the minute chart. Where do we have it? 5 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay, so far we're off to a good start, ladies and gentlemen. So far we're off to a good start. As expected, Bitcoin is heading again towards 117. 117 is basically the resistance line what we do have still from the previous drop. But it's going up and down. It's going up and down. It's going up and down. So far, though, not much. What do you guys think? It's 25. So the majority was right. 67% end pull. Okay, so we might be dropping a bit, guys. This is what we expected, kinda. Let's see. Pete, I can't hang around. So have it. Enjoy with your mates. Or the lads. Get them some tea. Adrian, my advice to newbies, please do your own research. Do not just watch videos on YouTube. Exactly. Always do your own research. It can be part of your research, the actual videos. But always also listen to different opinions because, like, I try to also educate myself. But of course, I'm not the trading god or like macroeconomic god myself. Basically nothing. This is boring. I expected a lot more. So again, for anyone just joining in, we had a rate cut of 25 basis points just as expected. However, what we're waiting for now is the stream. The FOMC minutes, the notes, the statement. That will be happening very soon. That will be happening very soon. Not yet, though. Not yet. Strap in. It will be live streamed here. So we have it ready to join the live broadcast from the Federal Reserve. But so far, not much. How about CRO then? CRO is doing, I think, the exact same. Nothing. It's so far Ethereum. What about Ethereum? I see Ethereum, I think, dropping a little bit. Yeah, you can see the same thing for CRO. It went down back to like 22 cents and then back to 23 within the same minute. What about Ethereum? Ethereum is also doing the same thing. Nothing too spectacular so far. JP, alt season should go crazy after the clarity out. I think even before it could go crazy already. Like, the thing is, guys, what I'm waiting for is like the smallest little fire that could start everything, right? The smallest thing. Aaron is saying whales decide everything. That's the thing, right? I would also have to say that for Cronos specifically, there is... I think there is at least some part of... some bit of manipulation for the price sometimes as well. The bigger the market cap, like for example with Bitcoin, the harder it is to manipulate. However, in the weekends, for example, with low liquidity, there is a better chance of actually creating some mayhem in the markets. He hasn't even told yet, no. Still here, guys, for about an hour. We have to wait. The stream will start in, well, sometime. Yeah. 2:30 p.m. Over here, it's now 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Amsterdam time. Tomorrow, by the way, we're going to talk about the actual outcome of it, like what really happened, the aftermath, really. But we'll be live streaming until at least this complete press conference has been answered. So the opening statement by Jerome Powell, that's typically quite interesting, but we often have to wait for the questions. So then he opens the stage for the media, the press, and the press can also ask basically everything. They are going to talk about, hey, but what about Trump? And aren't you afraid to be fired? And blah-de-blah-de-blah-de. Actually quite interesting. Recently, I do believe that Trump appointed a new member to the Fed. And that was really quick, I believe. He's also a supporter of the MAGA team. Fed approves quarter-point interest rate cut and sees 2 more coming this year. Was that just released in the statement? Thank you, NG. Interesting. Do you? No, you don't have the economic projections already here. Statement. Oh, you can't see the screen here. No, I was still waiting on this. Yeah, we're still waiting, guys, on the big press conference. It's quite okay though. Chaotic. CoinFlare doesn't have CRO on there, so I use CDC for that. What's CoinFlare? Crazy J, why did MCGA dump 50%? Is it a scam coin? It's not a scam coin, it's a meme coin. Crazy J. It has a lot of inherent risk to it. A lot of risk to it. I would say, guys, the overall effect of the rate cut so far is bullish. Like, we're moving back up again. Nothing too crazy, because today, earlier, we had this already, this move to the upside. We tested just above 117k for Bitcoin. Hey, it's okay. Good to see you, sir. Chaotic. Mr. Trump is in the UK until tomorrow. I even heard he had a visit with the king. He's doing some important stuff. So CoinFlare is where I do my trading. It used to be Bitflex. Not so many great options in the UK though, due to our government. Okay, I get it. I'm not really well known with all the UK options, to be honest. Nature's King, I do think that 25 basis points is showing economic stability while still bullish for the crypto degens. Yeah. Crypto degens were calling for 0.5%, but it could have some inverse effect due to the economic stability or projections for fear. Exactly. I think this is fine, guys. I think it's absolutely fine. Hey, Mr. Witzerk. Appreciate the stream. Thanks, sir. Thanks. Hey, very good to see you as well. Welcome, welcome. For anyone just joining in, we had the rate cut as expected, 25 basis points. So no big surprises there. No big surprises. It's good. It's good. And now we can look forward towards the next meetings, of course. We have one near the end of October. And there we have currently about a 75% chance for a 50% basis cut. A 50% basis point cut, actually, here. To buy at 375. So that's going to be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. What's going to happen in October, and then also in December, what's going to happen there. They even do project going to as low as 350. So still restrictive, because everything basically above 200 is, I would say, still somewhat restrictive. They're still aiming towards the 2%. Let's see. It's kind of funny that the whole crypto market was really looking forward to this specific meeting, and yeah, it's just as expected. JP, he went golfing instead of going to Charlie Kirk's funeral. I think the meeting was arranged for a long time already. I think it's hard to say no to, like, the head of state. NK, 25 points is a good calm start. Doesn't really spook the market. 25 basis points is fine. What I like to see though, guys, is that Cronos going up. The highest point I've seen it in time. So where is it? Like the high, we haven't been like this high since yesterday. Okay, so we're now getting to a bit of resistance. We're getting to a bit of resistance here. This is the minute chart. So if we can surpass here, like 23 cents, 23 cents 40, we might be able to go back to these levels here, like where we started dumping. So let's say 24 cents, 25 cents. It's good. I also, guys, have a feeling, this might be a bit of a personal feeling, but I don't know if you like to watch football. Yesterday we had the Champions League, and I saw the commercial, you might have seen my tweet, with Crypto.com, where millions trade grow. Crazy marketing, guys. I love it. It's going to be adding so much more, so much mind share really to the CRO token, and also I think still Crypto.com in general, because let's not forget, the football season just started. Altcoin season is just getting started. I honestly believe that retail is going to trade at places they remember. So Binance, for example, is an option. They might have used Binance back in 2017 or back in 2021. So there, or maybe they're going to use an exchange they see a lot on TV or on the ads really on YouTube or wherever. So I think Crypto.com might be a prime candidate for many people to start their trading journey. And they might get like the Visa card. They might get a little bit of Crow in there as well. It's unfortunate. So far we try to break through this line, but unfortunately, guys, it's not strong enough yet. Also, we do see that Bitcoin specifically, it's unsure. There's a lot of volatility, but not really a very clear direction so far. Is Feyenoord playing right now, Martino? No, they play in the Europa League. I need Crow to stay where it is so I can rebuy when my stake unlocks. I think, Chaotic, you need to understand that when your stake unlocks, you don't get euros or dollars, you get Crow. So no need to rebuy. It is what it is. You don't get euros, you don't get pounds, you don't get US dollars. It's Crow. Rebenti. With 25 basis points, I think there is a bigger possibility to get more rate cuts this year. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So we're still waiting, guys, for big rate cuts near the end of the year. We're still waiting for those. Majority's expecting to go to 350. It's playing now. Take a Fortuna. Oh. Enjoy, Martino, enjoy. We're just watching charts here, so nothing too spectacular. Nothing too spectacular here. We're starting to see a little bit of a dump here by Bitcoin, but nothing really spectacular also on that front. It is still within this range, so the market still doesn't know. The market still doesn't know. I by the way, had a bet. So you have Delphi on Cronos. And with Delphi, there are prediction markets. So I predicted that, like, we're going to get a rate cut. So I think I won like $20 with that actual prediction. So interesting times. Oh, this is unfortunate. So Bitcoin, guys, starts with a little dump now. There we go. It's the lowest we've been so far. We are now waiting for for the live stream to start. So this is the live stream we're waiting for. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we still have some time left, guys. Joseph, difficult choice to buy now or try and time it. It's really hard. I would, you know, wait a few hours. But of course, guys, I don't give any financial advice. I think it's so strange. You might be missing out a little bit, guys, on CRO. CRO is also dumping a bit now. You might be missing out on the most cheapest prices, but you know, it could go lower. I wouldn't be that much surprised if CRO goes down to like 21 cents. Could be happening if Bitcoin retests like 107. My like worst case for Bitcoin wouldn't be that bearish actually. Like I'd expect, we've been trading in this megaphone pattern for a long time now. And we've seen a fake out here. So if you get another fake out above this line again, the worst case, the first stop will be here at about 114. If you drop below that, it's about 110, about here. And the final stop would be at about 104 here. So we have a long time to go before Bitcoin would really have like a really rough time. I don't expect it to go like below 100k anytime soon. We also have, I think it's quite interesting, we have the 21 day, or the 21 week, I should say. The 21 week is great support so far for Bitcoin. It's honestly surprising how well it holds on. So you can see, we have the blue line here. Let me remove all these little jiggly lines. Yeah, the rate cut is confirmed. Welcome, Crypto Alex. So 25 basis point is confirmed now. And we are now watching the market showing a little bit of a dump. Going back to 115. But you can see that so far the 21 week has held as support. The 21 week is now at about 110. So maybe we're going to see a retest here of the 21 week. Like what we have done, I think, in 2021. You see, right? We broke above the 21 week. We retested it once more, or twice, I feel. These are weekly candles, so you can see here. Retest, and here another retest. 2 weeks in between. We could have a very similar scenario now playing out for Bitcoin in the current day and age. So retest here, 1 week above it, and then the next week retest back to the 21 week, and then we have the final blast off. Because that's the thing, right? That's the thing. After the final test, we did have a big move to the upside. Bitcoin went from about 10 all the way to 69. 69, guys. Crazy. That's the power of the really of the 21 week. And I think we've seen the first bounce already. Yeah, okay, big bounce so far now for Bitcoin. Like the bulls are still in town. They don't want to see a big dump, I feel like. They try to go to 117 again, but... Hey, Kyle. Has it been announced yet? We just had the announcement. We're still waiting now for the press conference. But so far we can see here, as expected, 425. We've had the rate cut so far. But this is as expected. A very safe play here by the Federal Reserve. Hey, way up north. I bought about $250 of Sora. Now it shows I got like $380 million. Sir, I would cash it out any minute now. Start cashing out now. I thought it was going to be more exciting. However, October will be great. That's the thing, Cliff. This might be the perfect setup. This might be the perfect setup for a better October. Like nothing too crazy. Like my base case, my personal base case is that we're going to do basically Not much. I'm going to have a slow climb, a slightly slow climb to about the previous all-time high, maybe something like this for Bitcoin. But the question then is, what about altcoins? What about altcoins? Because altcoins, like I mentioned before, altcoins are now at the verge really of breaking out to new highs. I think we can easily add like another $1 trillion in only a matter of weeks. So we have to climb a bit more in the total altcoin cap. We're talking about 0.04 trillion. So if Ethereum has one good day, and I think it's ready also for the blast off, getting now to the resistance here of this exact line. So it's struggling a bit, but breaking out above 4,500. But we can get that any minute now. Ending September green historically means October, November will be insanely good. Always has happened this way. That is exciting, very exciting. Oh man, guys, I'm just in general, I'm bullish. I think the setup is great, and especially if you consider that the S&P 500, we have to actually get the S&P also in here. How is the stock market responding to this? How's the stock market responding? So far, not much. Bit the same as Bitcoin. Bit the same as Bitcoin here. So up, down, up, down. It doesn't know. It doesn't know what it has to do. Everybody's waiting, guys, for that stream, I guess. But what you can see here, and I think this is really important to remember, yesterday we set a new all-time high for the S&P 500. I think also gold set today a new all-time high. Cliff, sir, thank you so much, Cliff. Thanks for your time and providing this platform, Coin Baron. Thank you so much, Cliff. I think, by the way, your gift is now on the way to Canada, so it should be in the plane. Don't know if you get any tracking mail, but it's coming to Canada. Thank you so much again, Cliff. I don't know what to say. Thanks for strapping in. So gold, guys, went to a new all-time high. The stock market went to a new all-time high. Bitcoin. We have to wait on Bitcoin. Bitcoin deserves a new all-time high. It's supposed to be coming any minute now. We have the empty money supply growing every day still. It's yeah, thank you so much, Cliff. And yeah, by the way up north, it's the legend Cliff that gifted all those subs, so you gotta thank him, sir. Marty, smash the like. Thank you very much. Guys, good reminder, smash the like, hit the subscribe button if you're new here to the channel. We've been discussing CRO a lot. We've been discussing crypto.com a lot. We've been discussing Bitcoin, crypto in general a lot. So stick in here if you want to learn more. So we can also have a discussion about what you guys think. We're still waiting for the live stream. Yeah, nothing is happening yet. Nothing is happening yet. Cliff has made you buy more CRO again. Hey, Robert, welcome. Yeah, Cliff, guys, is a legend, absolute legend. He doesn't know of any stopping. Hey. Do you get cash back, Cliff, if you donate money on YouTube? I'm honestly curious about that. CRO is like very indecisive, very indecisive, but it's showing a green candle now. This, by the way, is on Coinbase, so we're tracking here the Coinbase charts for CRO specifically, and I think Coinbase is also very interesting because not many people know, but tomorrow on Coinbase we will start trading with perpetuals. There will be a perpetual listing for CRO tomorrow on Coinbase. So if you are using Coinbase and you like perpetuals, again, there is some risk involved with perpetuals. But CRO is getting another listing on Coinbase, so I think that's quite exciting. Right in time also for potential move to the upside, because we've been talking about this a little bit, I think not too much. I kind of feel like the vibe is changing again. Like, CRO has seen a lot of pain. CRO has seen a lot of pain. But I kind of think the pain might be over or soon over. And why do I think that? Well, we have to, of course, close today still. But let me bring up a few different indicators. Hey, Very Benjamin, or Very Berry Jam. Welcome. So why isn't CRO listed on Binance? CRO, or Crypto.com, and Binance are each other's biggest competitors, I believe. Like, in the West, I would say Crypto.com might be even the #1 exchange. Next to maybe, yeah, I think Coinbase is a little bit bigger, but like it's definitely top 3 in the West of the world. But in the East, so Asia, China, Binance is an absolute juggernaut. And I think both companies want to get each other, want to get like market share of each other. So by not listing CRO, Binance is basically like not helping competition. Kind of how it works. Okay, so you actually earned a bit of CRO. That's good. That's good. Anyways, guys, let's go to the RSI. So recently, on the relative strength index on the daily, we have gone below the neutral zone. We've gone below the neutral zone, and typically we do see reversals just above it or just below the neutral zone. So I'm curious if soon we'll see that reversal. That's for the RSI specifically. But also, we do have here the MACD. And the MACD, oh, where is it? There we go. You see this here. It isn't confirmed yet. We haven't had any daily candle close, and it can also still be a fake out as well. But typically, if we see on the daily, we see a color change. So here we have the light red. That means a trend reversal. We're not there yet, guys, so it's not confirmed yet, but let's see. It's a good sign. It's a very good sign for CRO for a potential future flip into even higher highs. And at this minute again, Bitcoin is climbing back up. We have 5 more minutes before the actual live stream. We'll keep the charts here open so you can see what's happening actually with the charts next to the stream here. I noticed the app is now also available in Dutch, but no marketing in Holland. Welcome, Q. You mean the Crypto.com app is available in Dutch? I haven't seen like any specific like TV commercials in the Netherlands. Like I also live there, for anyone who doesn't know. But of course, I see Crypto.com marketing everywhere. Like yesterday in the Philips Stadium in Eindhoven. Really happy to see CRO support levels during the post-pump cooldown. It is just, you know, listening to the typical support and resistance levels so far. I'm still overall bullish, guys. Of course, we've dropped more than, what is it, almost 50%. We've dropped more than 50%, but I'm really glad that we had this pump in the first place. We're now up about 50% year to date. That's really cool. Jason's saying is that Karl got a listing on Coinbase, the Coinbase DEX. I don't know how big the Coinbase DEX is. Like, I'm not really into the Base chain myself. I have a few tokens or a few NFTs on Base. I'm not really a big Base user. I don't know if you guys seen the video, but I got this phone yesterday. This is the Solana Seeker. So this is an actual Solana phone. I think you can see the Solana logo on the bottom, but I was kind of hoping that the phone, I didn't do my research, of course. I was kind of hoping that this phone has a built-in seed phrase, a built-in seed wallet. So like with an actual hardware wallet, you can store your CRO or you can store your crypto safely on this device. But unfortunately, it only supports, as far as I know, Solana. It's called the Solana Seeker, so it makes sense, but as it doesn't really work with other chains next to Solana, it's not really worth my my time. So I'm not going to be using the Solana Seeker much myself. It's an interesting phone note. The concept is really niche though. It's really, really niche. Audi is saying 18 cents soon. What do you think, Audi? What do you think? I think based on the indicators that we're not going to have a big switch soon. I think also looking here at the resistance lines, it's more likely that soon we'll have a breakout to the upside here. Twisted was cut by about 0.25 basis points, but CRO didn't even move. I think so because it was also priced in already. Like the same with Bitcoin, right? Did Bitcoin truly move there? Not really. So far, that rate cut has been a nothing burger. Hey, MA. It's always the same way. Take liquidity after the pump. But haven't we taken the liquidity now? That's the question, right? I think Chris in enough pain. Chaotic's getting a GoPro for boat travels. So I still might get the Solana phone. Yeah, the thing about this, the camera Chaotic, I don't know if you're really a big camera user, like the camera is simply said trash. So you can see here, the sensor is like a really small camera. So typically from like a mid-range phone, you don't expect much, but like because it was full $50, it's quite an expensive mid-range phone. If I compare it like this is a OnePlus phone here, bigger sensors, therefore it's catching a lot more light, a lot more details. But well, it's up to you, sir or miss. Have you heard about Base wanting to launch their coin? I have heard the rumors. They did say that they are starting to discuss a potential token. So if I listen to Jesse Pollack, I think it's Jesse, the boss really of Base. They are in a very, very early stage. I don't even think they will launch it like this cycle. So I'm not really afraid of it. I'm more curious how it will actually work with their own stock, because they have the Coinbase stock and they have the Coinbase base token. I kind of like that it was just like actual how's it called? It was just working with Ethereum, because Ethereum is a widely accepted token, and I don't want to buy another token again to, you know, use the base chain. But it kind of makes sense, guys, because they will have this subscription fee model, and with the subscription fee model you can actually pay, I think, $5 a month to Coinbase, and then they will provide you with a few base tokens so you can trade on the base chain basically for free. Have a good one, Mr. Nord. Okay, guys, I thought, oh, it's beginning. Shit. I'm sorry.
1.8% next year, a touch stronger than projected in June. In the labor market, the unemployment rate edged up to 4.3% in August, but remains little changed over the past year at a relatively low level. Payroll job gains have slowed significantly to a pace of just 29,000 per month over the past 3 months. A good part of the slowing likely reflects a decline in the growth of the labor force due to lower immigration and lower labor force participation. Even so, labor demand has softened, and the recent pace of job creation appears to be running below the break-even rate needed to hold the unemployment rate constant. In addition, wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, the marked slowing in both the supply of and demand for workers is unusual. In this less dynamic and somewhat softer labor market, the downside risks to employment appear to have risen. In our SEP, The median projection for the unemployment rate is 4.5% at the end of this year and edges down thereafter. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.7% over the 12 months ending in August, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.9%. These readings are higher than earlier in the year as inflation for goods has picked up. In contrast, disinflation appears to be continuing for services. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up, on balance, over the course of this year on news about tariffs, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation is 3.0% this year and falls to 2.6% in 2026 and to 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to lower the target range for the federal funds rate by a quarter percentage point to 4 to 4.25%, and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. Changes to government policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. Higher tariffs have begun to push up prices in some categories of goods, but their overall effects on economic activity and inflation remain to be seen. A reasonable base case is that the effects on inflation will be relatively short-lived, a one-time shift in the price level. But it is also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent, and that is a risk to be assessed and managed. Our obligation is to ensure that a one-time increase in the price level does not become an ongoing inflation problem. In the near term, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside and risks to employment to the downside, a challenging situation. When our goals are in tension like this, our framework calls for us to balance both sides of our dual mandate. With downside risks to employment having increased, the balance of risks has shifted. Accordingly, we judged it appropriate at this meeting to take another step toward a more neutral policy stance. With today's decision, we remain well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate, based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario for the economy. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.6% at the end of this year, 3.4% at the end of 2026, and 3.1% at the end of 2027. This path is 1/4 percentage point lower than projected in June. As is always the case, these individual forecasts are subject to uncertainty, and they're not a committee plan or decision. Policy is not on a preset course. The Fed has been assigned two goals for monetary policy: maximum employment and stable prices. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission, and we at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to our discussion.
Great. Thank you. Chris Rugaber at Associated Press. As you know, Fed Governor Stephen Miron has kept his position at the White House, even as he's joined the Fed board. This is the first time, I believe, the Fed's board has had someone with executive branch ties in decades. Does this compromise the Fed's independence from day-to-day politics? And relatedly, how can you maintain the public's perception the Fed is politically independent with this dynamic? Thank you.
So we did welcome a new committee member today, as we always do, and the committee remains united in pursuing our dual mandate goals. We're strongly committed to maintaining our independence, and beyond that, I really don't have anything to share.
Well, great. And then just as a quick follow-up, I'm sorry, can you and other Fed officials have spoken extensively about the impact of tariffs on inflation, although perhaps with many companies appearing to eat the tariffs, tariffs may be impacting the labor market and other parts of the economy instead. Do you see that as a possible outcome here, that tariffs are the reason we're seeing some slowing, particularly in the labor market, rather than in inflation? Thanks.
You know, it's certainly possible. You know, we're beginning to see, we have begun to see goods prices showing through into higher inflation, and actually the increase in goods prices accounts for most of the increase in inflation, or perhaps all of the increase in inflation over the course of this year. Those are not very large effects at this point, and we do expect them to continue to build over the course of the rest of the year and into next year. And you know, it's also possible and that there may be effects on employment, but that I would say if you're looking at why employment is doing what it's doing, that's much more about the change in immigration. So the supply of workers has obviously come way down. There's very little growth, if any, in the supply of workers. And at the same time, demand for workers has also come down quite sharply, and to the point where we see what I've called a curious balance. It's, you know, typically when we say things are in balance, that sounds good, but in this case, the balance is because both supply and demand have come down quite sharply. Now demand coming down a little more sharply because we now see the unemployment rate edging up.
There was a rate cut of 25 basis points, so 25 basis points. Not too big, not too small, right in line.
Chair Powell, do economic conditions and the balance of risks no longer warrant a restrictive policy setting?
So I don't think we can say that. What we can say is this, that over the course of this year, we've kept our policy at a restrictive level, and people have different views, but a clearly restrictive level, I would say. So, and we were able to do that over the course of this year because the labor market was in very solid condition with strong job creation and all those things. I think if you go back to April and now look at the revised job creation numbers for May, June, July, and August, you can I can no longer say that. So what that means is that the risks were clearly tilted toward inflation. I would say they're moving toward equality. Maybe they're not quite out of equality. We don't need to know that. But we do know that they've moved meaningfully toward greater equality, the risks between the two goals, and that suggests that we should be moving in the direction of neutral, and that's what we did today.
Under what
That is
circumstances
dovish.
would a larger than 25 basis points rate cut be warranted, and how seriously was that option entertained at your meeting this week?
There wasn't widespread support at all for a 50 basis point cut today. You know, I think we've done very large rate hikes and very large rate cuts in the last 5 years, and you tend to do those at a time when we feel that policy is a place and needs to move quickly to a place. That's not at all. Wait and see.
I think the Fed is not prepared for how many people are watching this live now. Okay, so he's talking about the 50 basis point, which is interesting. So let me just try to refresh. We might break it now.
Cuts in the last 5 years, and you tend to do those at a time when we feel that policy is a place and needs to move quickly to a place. That's not at all. Wait and see.
In place. I guess I'm just, trying to square the shift in the rate forecast in the SEP.
This is not bullish. The stream guys that wants to cut us off. So far, by the way, Bitcoin, nothing. Cronos, not much. It's
towards more cuts than just
all neutral.
3 months ago, with the fact that the forecast for unemployment didn't change.
I would say Rebenti, it's quite a big pivot in price because it's not in price. I mean the pivot in the fact regarding right now they don't think that the job market is performing.
Yeah, I think you could think of this in a way as a risk management cut, because if you look at the SEP.
Okay, we'll quickly try to find a different stream, guys, because this is really annoying. Probably there are multiple streams watching this now. So let's check if we can find a different one. But one sec, guys. I think we have one on YouTube available as well.
Back to the 2% target until 2028. So I guess I'm just wondering how you characterize the risk to price pressures of kicking off a series of cuts at this point.
Yeah, so I would look at it this way. We fully understand and appreciate that we need to remain fully committed to restoring 2% inflation on a sustained basis, and we will do that. At the same time, we've got to weigh the risks to the two goals. And I would say since April, actually, to me, the risks of higher and more projections for growth have probably ticked up just a little less. And that's partly because the labor market has softened, GDP growth has slowed. So I would just say that the risks there have been less than one might think. And in terms of the labor market, what we're seeing is unemployment is still low. It's still a relatively low rate, but we're seeing downside risks.
So if are not really big things, just
Mike McKee from Bloomberg
boring,
Radio
nothing
and
bug.
Television. I'm a little confused by your explanation of the Fed cutting rates because of unemployment. If you think that most of what's happening in the employment area is related to immigration, which your rate cuts wouldn't address, how do you see that as more important than inflation, which has remained almost a full percentage point above your target?
Well, I was saying that what's happening in the labor market has more to do with immigration than it has to do with tariffs. That was the question I was answering. So I wouldn't say that all of what's happening in the labor market is due to tariffs. I mean, you clearly have a slowing in it due to immigration. You clearly have a slowing in demand, which is now perhaps more than that in supply, and we know that because the unemployment rate has ticked up. So, that's what I meant by that.
If I could follow up. Every year since 2015, the SEP has forecast that you would hit your target 2 years later. And this year, this SEP says you're going to hit your target 2 years later. 2% does not seem to be in sight. Does that suggest that the 2% target is not really achievable? And does this present any credibility problems for you in telling people that that's what you're going to do if you can never reach it?
Well, I mean, you're right. It does say we're going to get to 2% inflation in 2028, at the end of 28. But that's literally how you put the projections together. You're writing down a rate path, which is designed to create, over the course of the SEP, time frame, 2% inflation and maximum employment too. So that's all that is. No one really knows where the economy will be in 3 years. But the nature of the exercise is to write down policy that you believe would return to the 2% goal over at least by the end of the exercise.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth Schulze with ABC News. The latest inflation report shows that prices are still going up across key categories for many households, including groceries. What will the Fed do if prices pick up more?
So our expectation, and you can see this consistently through the year, has been that inflation will move up this year, but that basically because of the effects on goods prices from tariffs, but that those will turn out to be a one-time price increase as opposed to creating an inflationary process. That's been our forecast. Pretty much all the individual forecasts say that. We can't just assume that, though, right? We have to. Our job is literally to make sure that is what happens, and we will do that job. Right now, the situation we're in is that we see inflation. We continue to expect it to move up, maybe not as high as we would have expected it to move up a few months ago. The pass-through of the tariffs into inflation has been slower and smaller. The labor market has softened. So the case for there being a persistent inflation outbreak is less. And so that's why we think it's time for us really to acknowledge that the risks to the other mandate have grown and that we should move in the direction of neutral. So what will we do? We'll do what we need to do, but we have two mandates and we try to balance them. for a long time, our framework says that when our two goals are in tension, this is quite an unusual situation. How do we decide what to do? Because our tools can't do two things at once. What we do is we ask which is farther from, how far is each from the goal and how long is it expected to get to the goal? So, and then we think about those things and we see, as I mentioned, our policy had been really skewed toward inflation for a long time, really. Now we see that there's downside risk clearly in the labor market, and so we're moving in the direction of more neutral policy.
How concerned are you about the slowdown in the jobs market for households at home, especially younger Americans struggling to land a job?
So it's an interesting labor market, and obviously we think it's appropriate that we reduce our rates so that we become more neutral, which presumably will be better for the labor market. You see people who are sort of more at the margins, so kids coming out of college and younger people, minorities are having a hard time finding jobs. The overall job finding rate is very, very low. However, the layoff rate is also very low. So you've got a low firing, low hiring environment, and the concern is that if you start to see layoffs, the people who are laid off there won't be a lot of hiring going on. So that could very quickly flow into higher unemployment. In a healthier economy, healthier labor market, there would be jobs for those people. But now the hiring rate is very, very low. So that's been a growing concern over the last few months. And it's one of the reasons why we think it's appropriate that we begin to shift our policy focus toward a more balanced one.
104 is also my target if we really start dipping.
Steve Lee from
Fitch,
CNBC.
but-
Mr. Chair, in the past, during rate cuts, you used the word recalibration. And I wonder if you pointedly did not use it this time. And in fact, when you said policy is not on a preset course, did you mean that as sort of the opposite of recalibration? Are we meeting to meeting, data point by data point? Are we in the process here of getting back to neutral? Thank you.
So I think we're in a meeting by meeting situation. We're going to be looking at the data. Let me say a word about the SEP really here. So we often point this out. What the SEP is it's an accumulation of the individual projections of 19 people, showing what they believe at a particular moment in time to be the most likely path for the economy and thus the appropriate path for monetary policy as well. And as you know, we don't debate or try to agree on what that is. We just write them down and accumulate them. We do sometimes discuss them. And so we always say we're not on a preset path, and we really mean that. The actual decisions we make are going to be based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks at the time the decisions are actually made. So you will have seen that we have 10 participants out of 19 who wrote down 2 or more cuts for the remainder of the year, and 9 who wrote down fewer than, in fact, in a good number of cases, no more cuts. So rather than looking at this as certainty, I would encourage people, as always, to look at the SEP as through the lens of probability. And so there are different possible outcomes and likelihoods rather than this one is certain and this one isn't happening. So that's what I would say.
Thank you for getting to my follow-up question, which was, is the dispersion in the outlook a sign of uncertainty of policy in the meetings to come? Thank you.
You know, it is such an unusual situation. Ordinarily, when the labor market is weak, inflation is low. And when the labor market is really strong, that's when you got to be careful about inflation. So we have a situation where we have two-sided risk. And that means there's no risk-free path. And so it's quite a difficult situation for policymakers. And it's not at all surprising to me that you have a range of views. It's not so much about having different views for the path of the economy, but it's partly that. But it's also partly about what's the right thing to do in light of the tension between the two goals. How do you weight them? How worried are you about one versus the other? And so it's natural. I think it would actually be surprising if you didn't have a pretty wide range of views based, in this kind of highly unusual situation, and we do. So, but we get together, we discuss, we have a great discussion, and then we decide what to do and we act. But you're right that it's a wide dispersion of views, and I think that's understandable and natural in the current situation.
So far, guys, crypto's holding on
Hi,
quite
Victoria
normally.
Guida with Politico. You've talked a lot about Fed independence and the importance of it over the years, but as markets have questions about what exactly President Trump's intentions are with the Fed, what would you point to as the things they should be watching to determine that the Fed is still making decisions based on, the economic outlook rather than political considerations?
Look, it's deeply in our culture to do our work based on the incoming data and never consider anything else. That's just everybody who's at the Fed really feels strongly about that way. So, you'll know it by the way we talk about what we're doing, by the speeches that people give, by the decisions that we make. You'll know that we're just still going to do that. That's all we do. And we don't frame these questions at all or see them in terms of political outcomes. I think when you get to another part of Washington, everything is seen through the lens of, does it help or hurt this political party, this politician? That's the framework. And I think people find it hard to believe that that is not at all the way we think about things at the Fed. We're taking a longer perspective. We're trying to, serve the American people as best we can. So I think you would be able to tell. I don't believe we'll ever get to that place. I would say we're doing our work exactly as we always have now, and they're making their arguments, and we're having a great discussion around these challenging issues. So,
Do you see the court case around Lisa Cook as being related to questions of Fed independence?
I see it as a court case that it would be inappropriate for me to comment on.
Really good politician there regarding evading answers.
Thanks,
But yeah,
Mr.
it's
Chairman.
important they
Edward
are
Morris, from
independent.
Fox Business. So we saw the preliminary benchmark revisions down 911,000. The revisions for June were the first negative revisions we've seen since December of 2020. How can the Fed base important decisions on rate and what to do with the interest rates on data that seems to be, as you've called it in the past, noisy?
So on the QCEW, the revision that we saw was almost exactly what we expected. It was amazing how close the expectation was. So, and the reason for that is, for the last bunch of quarters, there's been almost a predictable overcount, and I think the Bureau of Labor Statistics really does understand this, and they're working hard to fix it. It's got to do, of course, it has something to do with low response rates, but it's also got to do with what's called the birth-death model, because a good amount of job creation happens around new companies and how many go out of business, how many are founded, and it's just really hard. You can't survey for that. You've got to have a model that predicts that, and it's quite difficult to do, especially when the economy is undergoing big changes. So, and they've been working on that and are making progress on it. But the data we get is still good enough for us to do our work. To the extent we have issues around data right now, it's about low response rates. That's happened all over really. Response rates are just lower to surveys now, both in and out of the government. And it's no great secret. We want higher response rates, and we need those to have, less volatile data. And the way to get that is to make sure that the agencies that collect the data have sufficient resources to drive higher response rates. It's not a complicated problem, but that's what it takes. It's not a mystery. That's what it takes. The other thing I'll say, Edward, is in the case of the job creation, the response rate is quite low for the first month, or lower for the first month. By the time you get to the second or third month, you're still collecting responses for that last month, for that prior month, and you get to the place where the data are much more reliable by the second and certainly the third month. So it's not that we don't get the data, it's just that we get it a little later.
But for the benchmarks, if that holds, it's 51% of the jobs that we thought were there weren't really there. It shows a weaker job market coming into this year. If you had had that information, would it have changed your mind related to where the interest rates should be? Should there have been a cut earlier?
We have to live life looking through the windshield rather than the rearview mirror, as you know. And all I can tell you is we see where we are now, and we take appropriate action, and we took that appropriate action today.
So far, nothing really interesting.
Thanks. Howard Schneider with Reuters. So, as you mentioned a minute ago, some margins of the job market would suggest that the slide's already happening. A black unemployment rate in August was above 7%, declining work week, difficulty among college graduates finding work, rising youth unemployment. Why do you think a quarter percentage point now is going to arrest that?
Well, I didn't say that I thought a quarter point would make a huge difference to the economy, but you've got to look at the whole path of rates, right? And the market's has already been baking in expectations. I mean, our market works through expectations, right? So I think our policy path really does matter. And I think it's important that we use our tools to support the labor market when we do see signs like that. I did mention that, you see minority unemployment going up, you see younger people who are more vulnerable economically, more susceptible to economic cycles. That's one of the reasons, in addition to just overall lower payroll job creation, that shows you that at the margin, the labor market is weakening. I would also point to labor force participation. Some part of the significant decline in labor force participation over the last year has probably been cyclical in nature rather than just the usual aging process. So we put all those together, and we see that the labor market is softening, and we don't need it to soften anymore, don't want it to. So we use our tools, and it starts with a 25 basis point rate cut, but the market's also pricing in a rate path. I'm not blessing what the market's doing at all. I'm just saying it's not just one action.
As a follow-up to that, the growth mix right now seems very concentrated in investment and on the consumer spending side in the higher income groups. Do you feel that that's an unsustainable mix for the economy moving forward?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you're right. Those are two. We're getting unusually large amounts of economic activity through the AI build out and corporate investment. I don't know how long that will go on. No one does. In terms of spending, you saw that the consumer spending numbers were well above expectations, and that may well be skewed toward higher earning consumers. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence to suggest that. Nonetheless, it's spending. So, I mean, I think the economy is moving along. Economic growth is going to be 1.5% or better this year, maybe a little better. Forecasts have been coming up, as you can see. So, labor market unemployment is low, but downside risks, but it's still a low unemployment rate. So, that's how we see it.
Yeah, the
Hi,
market
Stephanie
guys don't
Rule,
really respond.
MSNBC. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that the Federal Reserve suffers from mission creep and institutional bloat. He's now calling for an independent review. Would you support an independent review, or are you open to any sort of reform in any areas of the Fed?
I, of course, am not going to comment on anything the Secretary says or really any other officer says. So in terms of reform at the Fed, we just went through a lengthy and I think very successful process of updating our monetary policy framework. I would say there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes around the assets we have in the Federal Reserve Bank Federal Reserve system and at the board. Are they the right size? We're actually going through a 10% headcount reduction through the whole Fed, including the board and all the reserve banks. The employment at the Fed at the end of that will be basically at the same level it was more than 10 years ago. So we will have had zero job growth for more than a decade when we're finished with that, and I think we'll probably do more than that. So I think we're certainly open to constructive criticism and ways to do our jobs better.
But not an independent review?
We're certainly open to always trying to do better.
I don't expect any big changes anytime soon.
Neil Irwin
But
with
we do get a
Axios.
new head of.
There's been some debate lately on whether AI is already starting to affect the labor market in terms of lower labor demand, higher productivity by contrast. Do you buy that? And if that is true, does that have implications for the monetary policy setting?
So there's great uncertainty around that. I think my view, which is also a bit of a guess, but widely shared, I think, is that you are seeing some effects, but it's not the main thing driving it. And so particular focus on young people coming out of college. And yeah, there may be something there. It may be that companies or other institutions that have been hiring younger people right out of college are able to use AI more than they had in the past. That may be part of the story. It's also part of the story, though, that job creation more broadly has slowed down. The economy has slowed down, and so it's probably a number of things. But yeah, it's probably a factor. Hard to say how big it is.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. What evidence do you see of tariffs showing up in inflation?
Well, if you can take goods, just sort of the broad goods category, and last year, goods inflation was negative. If you go back 25 years, that was the typical thing, was that goods inflation was, goods prices generally went down, even adjusting for quality. So that was not the case during the pandemic, of course. Goods inflation went very high, but we had essentially returned to zero or slightly negative inflation. Now, I think goods inflation over the course of the past year is 1.2%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a big change. So we think, I mean, analysts have different views, but we think it's contributing, 0.3 or 0.4 or something like that to the current core PCE inflation reading, which is 2.9%. So it's contributing. What seems to be happening is that, the tariffs are mostly not being paid by exporters, mostly being paid by really the companies that sit between the exporter and the consumer. So if you buy something and you sell it through retail or you use it to make a product, you're probably taking a lot of those costs on and not able to pass it fully along to the consumer yet. That appears to be what we're seeing. All of those companies and entities in the middle, they'll tell you that they have every intention of passing that through in time, but they're not doing that now. To the consumer, the pass-through has been pretty small. It's been slower and smaller than we thought. But the evidence is it's very clear that there's some pass-through.
I also wanted to ask if you could share with us the conditions under which you might consider leaving the Fed in May.
I have nothing new on that for you today.
That was actually a good question. Okay, guys, we're gonna just skip it for here now, because if you take a look, all the questions are basically the same. Hey, is Trump still involved in your policy making? What are your expectations regarding inflation? All I care about is crypto going up or is crypto going down? And so far, I would say for CRO specifically, we do see a great recovery so far. Where we are now is basically just where we were before the rate cut reveals. So honestly, not too bad. Also, Joseph is saying we do see Bitcoin going up again. I think what I think is also interesting is that we do see now we started with a light green candle, right? Bitcoin dominance is going to the downside. So again, what we're waiting for, what we're truly waiting for, is a good old altcoin season, including here a breakout of the total free. And what I think is truly lacking here for a true altcoin season is not Bitcoin but Ethereum. I don't know why Ethereum has such a hard time breaking above 5,000, but that's of course, guys, the big issue that really brings us down now. So we're still struggling really with this resistance line here from 2021. So that's going to be interesting. I don't think, guys, we'll see any very big questions still in this meeting. So I think it's more about what can we expect going forward. Well, what we don't have yet is the exact minutes, and also we need to get more data regarding actual potential quantitative easing. Are they actually printing money? Like what Robenti was talking about. I think Robenti was talking about, the money printer, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we can't really see here in the rate cut numbers. What we need to know is the actual, are they removing money from the supply, or are they adding still money to the supply? And I think previously we were still lowering the amount of money added to the supply. No, wait a minute. They were still shrinking the money supply, but at a lower rate. But now we might actually shift into quantitative easing, which would also help the labor market. And it does seem like in general, Jerome Powell is seeing new risks now of the labor market. So that's a good thing. For anyone just coming in, we had a rate cut. We had a rate cut and also a very dull speech, if you would ask me. So the rate cut is as expected, 4.25% to 4.95%. So we're down 25 basis points. Nothing too shabby, nothing too great. Overall, I would say as expected, it's good. It's good. The speech itself, I would say it's pretty much neutral. The speech of Jerome Powell, I don't really see anything specifically dovish or anything specifically bearish. So again, also we need to wait for the actual minutes that come out after the FOMC. I think it's, when do they come out? The FOMC notes. Let's say I think next week. No, not this week. Not this week. So it might be the week after. Let me check. Maybe we can find it here. Would you get some more data also regarding the unemployment claims? Revised spending. Yeah, I can't see where it is, but we'll get the FOMC minutes. Should be coming soon, and then we get a bit more data. For now, it's not. It's just very neutral. It just is very, very neutral. Also, that's why Bitcoin didn't do much. That's also why Cronos didn't do that much in general. It's still in the same range. We kind of were hoping for a bit of a bigger pivot. Like, hey, we do expect now this and this and this, and going forward we'll even reduce even more. But that wasn't really mentioned, but also it wasn't really said it's not going to happen. So we're still a bit in the unknown here. We're still a bit in the unknown. Bitcoin reversing and CRO finding to stay above 23 cents. Let's go. Yeah, honestly, it's not looking all too bad. Like we talked about earlier, if we add the daily chart for CRO and we take a look at indicators like the MACD, it's still looking good. So guys, if we close today, the daily close is in about 5 more hours. If you close like this, we might be due for a reversal. Which could be good. Tomorrow we'll have a new stream, of course. The midweek close as always, 9 p.m. Amsterdam time. So then we'll see actually what the close was. Will it be like this, or will it be, well, a red candle? Will it be a red candle? What's your opinion on this rate cut for the next few weeks, months? It's good. It's a start, but again, we're waiting on the data. It's too, like, I think we started a trend, an upward trend after already the job data, and I think we might continue that trend. Also, interesting to see here the S&P. S&P is going into the green again. But also the stock market does seem pretty much neutral. Again, it's flipping all the time now. Maybe we missed the big speech, but I don't think, guys, we will see any more big questions related to Jerome Powell. No heavy questions indeed. Has Trump said anything about the cut? I think if it's not enough for him, it could get more attention. I don't know. I think he will say still it's too little, but at least it's a start. It's a start for Jerome Powell. He starts cutting a little bit. Somebody mentioned that he is now in the UK, so maybe he's sleeping now. It's UK sleep time soon, guys. So at 8 o'clock. Maybe he's watching the news there, UK news. Looks like it'll be a boring September. Kind of feels that way, isn't it? Kind of feels that way. I don't know. Maybe you missed something cool, guys, but no. I think it's, again, the big questions have been asked. Now the journalists will get the little crumbs, but the big headlines questions have already been asked. So a dump is expected now, or a pump? It's so confusing. I would say at this point, Lust, it's neither. No, nothing necessarily bearish, nothing necessarily very bullish. So maybe nothing. At least not a big dump. That's a good sign, isn't it? Some people would say it's a sell the news event. Well, so far it hasn't been a sell the news event, at least. Next up, we have Trump crying like a little baby about not cutting enough. Maybe. Let's see. JP's watching still for that dump. Can you explain in very basic terms what rate cuts are and what it does for crypto? Good question, Quentin. Good question. So For anyone that's here and it's like, Quentin, like what are we even talking about and why are we watching this? So the rate cut is basically the only way how the government can influence liquidity in the market. Basically, by having a low interest rate, people have to pay less fees. Let's say it that way, right? Like if you go to the bank and get a mortgage, the higher the fee of the mortgage, the more you have to pay for the bank to the bank and not for the actual house, right? Kind of that way. So if they're lowering the interest rates, you can now spend more on the house and less to the bank. Same effect kind of also with the overall market. You have to pay less to the government. Oh, well, no, it's the other way around. The government has to pay less because it's the interest rate for government bonds. So they promise you to pay that amount for their bonds. So how do you say this? Yeah, it's a good question. If I have to explain this to a 5-year-old, it's really hard. But what the big effect, those are typically also these government bonds, these interest rates, therefore, do also affect the 10-year yield or the 20-year yield or 30-year yield. So therefore also, the effect of interest rate cuts also will come to the banks and will come to all the other institutions that do loans or anything like that, based also on the interest rates by the US government. So the overall expectation is that we're going to get more liquidity, more money in the market that is actually going to buy stuff and also going to use to buy Bitcoin, for example. I hope that's a decent explanation. It's harder than I imagined to try to explain. But yeah, so we do expect more money to buy Bitcoin, more money to buy altcoins. Therefore, we expect an altcoin season in a more, well, low interest rate environment. CRO to the moon. So far, CRO's holding on. It's holding on quite steadily. Kaka saying better boring than bloody. True that. JP Fitch, when AMA with Mirko? So today, we agreed on a date, JP. We agreed on a date for the AMA. So it's coming. It's coming now. But we don't have the announcement yet. Not yet announceable. But it's going to happen. I was afraid for a second we had to cancel. But just to give you a bit of an update there. The AMA will be after the Korean blockchain week. So don't expect it to be next week. The Korean blockchain week will be a place where the Cronos Labs team will be heading towards, and they will have having their own stage there. So they will be talking with builders, they will be doing all kind of fun stuff. So Mirko will be in Korea. I'm not in Korea, I'm still in the Netherlands, so no interview next week. It will be after that. It will be after that. But a longer plan is better than a short-term pump. I do agree there. I do agree. And CRO's pumping a bit now. Going back to the upside. Me gusta. And Joseph is saying Mirko is stalling for a reason. I do believe, guys, some good things are coming. For example, we do have the ambassador program now going live for Cronos. Something cool. I think in general, some things are building now. We got some irons in the fire. We need a trigger for altcoin season. I still think, guys, long term, this might be the trigger. This might be the pivot that we need. This might be the pivot that we need because it is going to be less restrictive. Hey, Kickback Bros, when's the breakout going to happen? It could be any minute, but it also couldn't be any minute. Unfortunately, it is a very strange day. I expected a lot more volatility so far. You see volatility, right? It's going up and down, up and down, up and down in a very short amount of time, but it's not really drastic. It's not going up 25 cents or going down to 21 cents. The hat, you mean this hat here? Oh, that's actually a pilot hat. I don't know what Ambison is, unfortunately. Coin Baron, on the IC White credit card, does the weekly reward are paid out? Are those locked? No. You can get the week. Oh, wait. The weekly rewards that are paid out, are those rewards locked? Yeah. So what they will do, Mr. Skywalker, for the specific IC White credit card, they will be locked again, or not locked. They will be put to your existing lock, and therefore you will also get additional interest on the interest. So it's compounding for you. Merkel will bring some bullish news. Potentially. Everything is going neutral, Robenti is saying. Interesting. Very interesting. Imagine the Robinhood listing. I think it's going to happen, guys. I truly think it might be one of the bigger catalysts this cycle. It's not much, guys. It's not much. I'm not gonna lie. I expected a lot more fireworks today, but it's a bit of a nothing burger, and that's fine. Not every day, not everything has to be a big bloody day or a big pumpy day. It's everything goes as supposed to go. Is Jerome still saying something?
Anywhere, really. Ask any of the forecasters whether they have great confidence in their forecast right now. I think they'll honestly say no.
Still Paul talking about these statistics? No.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Jennifer Schonberger with Yahoo Finance. If you're cutting rates, why continue to reduce the size of your balance sheet, then pause the unwinding?
Well, I think we're cutting the size of our balance sheet quite marginally now. As you know, with the balance sheet, we're still in an abundant reserves condition, and we've said that we would stop somewhat above somewhat above an ample reserves level. That's where we are, and we're getting closer to that. We're monitoring it very carefully. We don't think that has at all significant macroeconomic effects. These are pretty small numbers moving around inside a giant economy. The level of runoff is not very large, so I wouldn't attribute macroeconomic consequences to that at this point.
And at his recent confirmation hearing, Stephen Myron brought up that the Fed actually has 3 mandates from Congress, not just jobs and stable prices, but also moderate long-term interest rates. So what does Congress mean by moderate long-term interest rates? How should we understand that when we see the 10-year Treasury moving? And how do you think about this part of the mandate when policy choices like rate cuts or balance sheet reductions affect the long end of the yield curve?
So we always think of it as the dual mandate, maximum employment and price stability, for a long time, because we think moderate long-term interest rates are something that will result from stable inflation, low and stable inflation, and maximum employment. So we haven't thought about that for a very long time as a third mandate that requires independent action. So that's where that is. And there's no thought of, as far as I'm concerned, there's no thought of considering that we somehow incorporate that in as something in a different way.
Okay, so guys, no
Thanks,
quantitative
Chair Powell.
easing yet.
Matt Egan from CNN. We recently learned that average FICO credit scores are down this year by 2 points, the most since 2009 during the Great Recession, and delinquencies are high for car loans, personal loans, credit cards.
I think that was a really actually we tuned into a good question there, because I heard this thing about balance sheet and was like, whoa, balance sheet, wait. So the balance sheet thing, guys, is about the quantitative easing we talked about. So what they're still doing is they're still removing money, just slightly, but it's still not really happening. So it's still tightening very slightly, but he does mention it's within the margins of normal stuff. So it's not really, again, not really much. But it's good to know at least that they haven't really pivoted yet to really the money printer. So unfortunately, Robenti, no money printer gifts yet, not yet. I think though, guys, we have seen the most important things now. Overall, Bitcoin, it's not really moving. Crow's doing quite okay. Again, I think it's interesting that Bitcoin dominance is still going down. That's a good sign. S&P is, well, it went down a lot today, but still it's going decent. How about gold? Quickly check on gold as well. Gold actually had quite a decent drop today. Interesting. If I say a decent drop though for gold, it's like 1%. 1% is a big drop for gold. We don't often see that. But recently, gold has been on a true jump, really, regarding the price. From all-time high to all-time high. It's crazy. It's honestly crazy. Guys, we're going to cut it for here. If there's anything special, I will keep up to date on my Twitter profile as well. So do follow me at the Coin Baron. Tomorrow, we're also going to check in again on the overall market. What happened? Because I'm going to go to bed in a few minutes. So maybe something is going to happen while I'm sleeping. So tomorrow, we're going to check in about 9 p.m. Amsterdam time, or basically at about this time exactly right now tomorrow. So check it out. Do follow me on Twitter. And also, well, if you have any questions, feel free to leave comments down below in the video. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys. It's not too bad. We had a rate cut as expected. Things are not sell the news. So I'm a happy man. I'm happy Coin Baron. I was strapped in for this. So guys, thank you so much. Again, Cliff, thank you so much for the 100 Canadian dollars. And enjoy, guys. See you soon. See you soon.